Mikey. What are you doing, bud? Buddy, I know you're gonna like mess with something in here. He just has this like air about him that he's just like, I hope nobody notices me. But yeah, I'm finally back. Holy shit. I've got so much like stuff I want to catch up on. I think I'm gonna start with like making a list of stuff. But sometimes lists can like, because I also want to like make like a more long-term list of like getting thumbnails for these YouTube streams or like stuff like that. There's an artist that I'm thinking about commissioning, TS Ebony Vixen on Twitter. She's going through like a hard time right now and like struggling with like homelessness, so, and she does really good work like making flyers and like edits and banners, and so I don't know, I want to like, I want to know what I think I'll just pre-order it honestly and then just like get back to her on what it is I want, because like I'm really bad at planning like graphic design shit. So this is just gonna be a productivity stream. Productivity? I don't know. Oh my god. I was cleaning my pipe the other day because it had a bunch of tar in it. And it's still not fucking clean, so... Then again, I didn't like agitate, so what you're supposed to do is like you can use vinegar or isopropyl alcohol and salt, and then you're supposed to agitate it in like a Ziploc bag. I just kind of let it soak, and that got some of it out, but like you're supposed to like agitate it. So I did that, and now I'm letting it soak a second time, because it's just like where the bowl is, it's like a cone, and then there's like tar around it, and like even with like a pipe cleaner I can't like really get it out without like dissolving it a little bit. But yeah, I fucking made banana bread, and I also made frittatas, and I'm kind of like regretting that I put them in the same thing. I'm not normally someone who gets freaked out by food touching, but okay, so edit video, edit photos, and trailer, and preview. Oh, while I was like kind of fucking off during March, like the end of March to April, because like it was like a contest month, so I was just trying to like get in my hours of streaming and stuff. Shit, what was I gonna say? Queen, come on. Poor Queen. She's got little patches of fur. That usually happens when it heats back up. She gets like... her skin gets agitated. God, speaking of, it was so fucking dry. Like, we went through a fucking drought for a little bit, which is crazy. So that's just been fucking with me. Fuck, what was my tangent that I was gonna go on? During March, I did something. Like, I did a lot of things. In April. Oh, I had to look down at my fucking to-do list, and that, because that was reminded me. I lost my fucking Twitter for a bit because of inauthentic behavior. They were doing like a purge of like bots and stuff like that. So I thought I lost my Twitter forever, but so I like made a new one and just started like posting all my promo like preview stuff and like all my content from like the last year or so. So that just like took a lot, especially because Blue Sky, they have a scheduler. It's not specifically with them, it's like a third party, I think, Buffer. They do a schedule thing. It's not built into the site. But they want you to like label your content, and you can't label the content as you're scheduling it. And it's just like, fuck, I don't want to like post shit without labeling it and fucking get in trouble. So I don't know. Let me make sure. Okay. No, I don't want to do that. Last time I updated Filmora, it lost all my fucking local files, so I had lost a bunch of fucking progress on shit and had to, like, I lost like my microphone audio because I didn't properly like export it as it is, and then so not also like not all the fucking updates are fucking necessary. I'm like a third of the way editing this video. So I think what I'm gonna do, I have some videos I can listen to, that we can listen to. And then I can figure out because I need to fix the audio for this shit, and every time I denoise audio it just sounds like shit, so I gotta figure something out. Did I No, I didn't. I'm not gonna put that on the desk because that's just gonna make a shit ton of fucking noise. Another thing, I got these fucking journals from this Etsy shop in this cute, like, little, like, reporter style notebook. So I'm using this as like a habit tracker. So I just did one of my habits, which was remembering to take my fucking daytime medication, because that's something I forget a lot. It's easier to remember my nighttime medication because that helps me fall asleep. So, yeah. Today's... Fuck, it's already Wednesday. I did... I did like 9,000 steps the other day, or yesterday. That coffee tasted really weird for a second. It tasted salty. Probably the milk settling at the bottom is what that was. I have some stuff that I've been saving to listen to on stream, and then I just have not streamed the last, like, fucking month. Oh my god. I'm not gonna be able to focus listening to this one, but Tyler Catastrophe. I watched, me and my boyfriend watched Ready to Claire's video on it. And she always does, like, a great comprehensive, like, to the date that she is making it, like, she gives you all the info. And, like, I love her just little, like, her little asides that she makes about it. It's so funny. So there's another Tyler Catastrophe drama video that I wanted to watch, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna save that for a little later after I've gotten my bearings. It won't fucking load. Oh my god. Bro. YouTube's been having so many issues lately. he's gonna keep fucking scratching at the door. I shook a toy and directed him to his cat tree and everything like that. And he's got water in a litter box in that room, so it's fine. I think the AI fruit slop is what I'm gonna listen to. Let me grab the link for that. On. Oh, it's on my other monitor. I'm like, why isn't it popping up? Oh God. How old is this? It's a month ago. I need to catch up. Ava gave Sneeko a reality check. That might be interesting. Possibly. This dude makes so many videos, I can't fucking find it. Just... What am I working on today? A video for my paid site, a photo set, and probably schedule some posts for social media. Oh God, I'm not used to fucking streaming anymore. I don't know where to copy this. Oh. Here, okay. My dilemma is that I don't want to play the, like, I don't want the stuff I'm editing on to play through the desktop audio, so I'm playing our background stuff on my phone. So you won't be able to see it, but yeah. Here's the link to what I'm gonna listen to. Let's hope we don't get fucking interrupted. What? Is it gonna fucking play? Why is it so quiet? What the fuck? Is it?
To me, AI content has always been an issue.
That's
From
why.
taking intellectual property to wasting water
Great.
to being a way to monitor.
Turning up the volume all the way, and then the actual audio comes in.
There's this new thing that's going on with this AI content.
Hi, Goliath.
Everybody's talking about, and AI content is used as a way to carry out the most insane messaging. Some of it's racist, some of it's homophobic, some of it's just red pill talking points. And they are now using fruit as a subtle way to pass off some of the most insane messages in the world.
Now you will go to the school of the rich kids.
Yes, you will study with the yellow children.
This our last meal.
We got $0.
Nah, we down bad. People out here making thousands on only fruits.
You serious right now?
You start one, we blow up. Easy money. Best 2 seconds of my life.
It's always
Just
easy
say we
money.
was $1 million. Yo, you made $1 million.
or something? Get a job.
If you're new to this and you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Every subscription lets me know that this is a
God.
real person watching the content, and our AI overlords will never take over the real Omar and the real community. Now, back into the video. AI slop videos have transitioned from attempts to make humans more realistic, replicate influence,
Yeah, only fruits.
this new genre. Now the new trend is giving the fruits, the vegetables, and anything that you might find in your Christmas.
Oh my god, the Big John AI, that one is so fucking funny. That's what the miner guy, like, that reminded me of that. Hello, how are you?
People in a short amount of time flock to TikTok to follow Fruit Love Island. Up and down my timeline, I see people repost or even say that they silently enjoy those videos of
It's not time.
saying how
I'm working right now.
dishes, saying how to
I love you.
I think it is some way to kind of subtly introduce an audience into AI slop content. You know, the one that wastes the water and has us building a bunch of data centers to pump out a bunch of nothingness. This way they can infiltrate the minds of people with cutesy, fun-looking, types of content. But what they're doing is they're covertly bringing in a nasty and heinous message into this AI slop content.
I think that's loud enough.
Just last year during the 43-day shutdown, there was an uptick in AI black stereotype content. These videos circulated and showed black
the SNAP
people
benefits
in bad light,
shutdown.
saying that they were welfare queens on EBT, upset at the fact that the government was shut down, and it existed to push these negative stereotypes and rile up people as they fought over this political difference that was going on in the nation at the time. Now I know somebody's gonna say, Omar, nobody is really looking at these videos and taking them seriously, but that's not what I remember, and that's not what I know is true. Especially during that time, people were taking those to
Yeah,
be
lots of people
serious
frame stuff as just
and
jokes, but then they, like,
internet being
look at you
outraged
to
over
see
the
if you
government.
agree.
It got so bad that they even fooled Fox
Like-
News with the AI slop.
Fox News got fooled by a series of racist AI videos or purporting to be black women complaining
Of course
about
they did.
losing their SNAP benefits.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. I get over $2,500 a month in stamps. I sell them $2,000 worth for about $1,200 to $1,500 cash. That's why everybody's upset. Folks say we're taking advantage, but that's how we get by.
And these AI-generated videos are pretty disturbing. They actually flood our timelines every day.
Like, you can kind of tell
experts are explaining
the way she's, like,
videos.
moving her head, but the rest of her body is stationary. It, like, just looks weird.
You've probably seen them before. Those social media videos showing mostly black women complaining about losing their
Oh, I didn't post it on live.
This video shows a black woman wearing a bonnet and screaming about losing her EBT card. But AI experts tell me the videos are fake, just AI-generated images used to spread misinformation.
These attempts seemingly worked and got people to actually believe that people were, upset about SNAP benefits being lost, upset about the government, all these other things like this. And it's disgusting because these things predominantly feature, a black or brown audience or some sort of stereotype when it comes to those who are on welfare. Social media networks will find out about this and go on about banning these platforms, banning these accounts, saying, hey, we understand the harm that they are causing, and it's actually pretty wrong. But these same bot accounts or these same nefarious people figured out there is a new and improved method, and this method has not been patched. What if we made those same racially charged videos with all this nasty stereotypical rhetoric, and we made it with fruit?
He has to, like, mute the audio.
Now, it's sad to say that I've watched thousands, and I do mean thousands, probably tens, of these AI fruit slop videos where they continue
Tens
to
of
drop
thousands?
the same types of tropes. And I just have one question.
How much time do you have?
Why is the strawberry always unripe? Why is the strawberry always white? In countless videos, whether it be Strawberrito or Peachello, I don't know these people's names. It always seems as though the woman in the situation is always some sort of light-skinned fruit. One that's more fair-skinned, one that's more innocent. But the aggressor in these situations is always some sort of darker-skinned fruit. They'll even go to the extent of making, like, the eggplant in question, because it's usually like an eggplant, darker than what a normal eggplant would be.
Stop. My husband is waiting for me.
Let him wait. He doesn't have my dark iron intensity. The air smells complex. Melinda, I thought you said you were working late.
Treatment. Stop overreacting.
Why is there
Complex.
premium dark bean broth on our kitchen rug?
I was just trying out a new stew recipe. It's
On
nothing.
the kitchen rug? A stew, answer me!
He can't handle my heavy flavor.
When I watch these videos, I literally can't do anything but cringe. There's also these random cuckold / fetishization tropes that are put into these videos. I don't know who's typing these prompts, but basically when these videos come on my timeline, I can guess the ending off rip. There's gonna be some sort of helpless light-skinned fruit that comes into play. She usually has some boss who is either darker skinned or longer than her fruit partner in question, and they need some sort of money. So what does she do? She takes one for the family.
I didn't even have my headphones connected.
Good work.
One thing that I must point out in these videos, and it almost seems like a common trope, is that there seems to be this overly aggressive sexual fantasy / almost lack of consent going on. Fruit women are forced into group sex situations in order to fill some
Many
sort of
such
financial
cases.
obligations, or like in the video that we
You guys
saw
ever seen The Birth of a Nation? Not the
black eggplant.
the recent remake.
This woman, it
or
almost seems like, you know, she doesn't
not remake,
necessarily
but they use the
explicitly
same
consent.
name.
I know this is weird to say about fruit videos, but trust me. Didn't they always leave the situation in some sort of physical pain? It's a weird
But the
thing
one
to
from the
type
30s,
into ChatGPT or ChatGPT's cousin in order to get this type of video.
It was actually
The best part of these videos is that the husband is always
one of the first
there in some sort of dire
movies with
financial
sound,
straits.
unfortunately.
Someone had to do what she had to do simply because they needed some sort of money. And, you know, the man kind of questions it but goes along with it anyway because, hey, they're coming home financially sound.
What is this?
Money.
Where did you get this?
From work.
Good work. You're getting better. Being rich is cool, but what kind of work is this?
Just work.
Now, if these scripts weren't
Just
Tyler
work.
Perry enough, the woman always, and I do mean always, ends up pregnant by the other fruit. Like, not one time are they ever using one of those little bags from the fruit section as any sort of protection in these events. No condoms, just straight unwrapping the peel and going ham on each other. The video usually ends fulfilling the cuck fantasies of the prompter by saying that, you know, the baby is discovered to be the bosses or whoever else aggressively took charge in this situation, and that the fruit father in question ends up taking care of the baby along with the woman who cheated to get them into a better financial situation.
No. I'm pregnant.
Really? We'll have a baby.
Congratulations. It's a banana.
Wait a moment. That's a banana.
You sold yourself for money?
Chill, baby. We can still live like this.
My baby. You know what? We'll be fine.
It's always weird how they play out these cuck fantasies in these videos, but I'm probably just more upset that for whatever reason they make a lot of the fruit, the aggressive male fruit in these situations, big, black, and buff, or at least big and black. Like, even fruits that aren't necessarily black in these situations are made to be black in order to get this message off. Now, if racist, colorist, and cuckold videos weren't enough, because, you know, Jerome the eggplant, Big Jerome the eggplant, coming home with Charita to her house to announce that she's pregnant, knowing that her father won't approve because he's, you know, not a cheater.
I tried
wasn't enough.
to
We
use my
now
pinky
have
to,
a
like,
new genre of these videos, and this is what I mean by the covert
to fucking
messaging that these videos are
cushion
trying to get
the
off.
mug,
Now
but it just
these
ended up
fruit
slipping
AI
and hitting the
style
fucking
videos are
desk.
getting
So I'm sorry.
transphobic and homophobic rhetoric in their content.
Open up!
So fucking weird. It's telling me to use the fucking AI denoiser, which I guess I can do.
I'll never
I just
cut
hate
into a navel again.
using
Now, of course, I
AI
think
because
that's
of, like,
to
the
say
data
this,
it
of course, this rhetoric
uses
is
and-
harmful, it's nasty, it's disgusting. But the main point that I'm trying to get off is that it's covert as hell. It's coming
What?
in these videos made
Fucking
with this
stop.
prompt from some dude in his basement as a means to get into your algorithm because you've been watching, I don't know, Fruit Love Island or the Fruit Helpful videos.
Oh my
It
God.
gets you to start consuming this anti-gay this or anti-trans that type of rhetoric. All the while underscored by this
Stop.
incoherent music every single time. I don't even
It-
know who's
fucking
singing that song.
Fillmore
They
is
must be
pissing me the
going
fuck off.
quadruple platinum on the Spotify charts because every AI fueled
They're like tutorial pages have fucking pop-ups like Fillmore 15 is here. Get your reward now. Like I literally have it.
I don't think that people realize that this is the natural evolution of media, It starts with this overt messaging about, this talking point, that talking point, and the third. And then they go in the more subtle route about things. Right now, I think people know that the manosphere is totally dead. People don't want to hear from the Fresh and Fits of the world. The Tate brothers are fighting with Sneeko every other single week, and they just don't have a real clear leader and a clear message. But does that mean that misogyny and these red pill talking points stop? Absolutely not. A lot of these AI fruit videos are the beat it chick meme personified. They literally play out Walter and Myron's, talking points in real time of a hypergamous fruit leaving her dark and destitute husband for somebody who has more wealth and more status and more fame.
Dad, why is Mom looking at that guy like that?
Because he has something I could never give her.
You're useless! I deserve a real life, not...
Please, the boy is watching.
Will we always live like this, in this box?
No, this is only a chapter, not our whole story.
But I'm scared, Dad.
It's no use. Nobody is coming to help us.
No, Dad, don't give up. Remember what you said.
Dad, look at all these people!
We're selling out. We actually did it.
Finally, this is the life I always deserved.
Sure, babe. Whatever you say.
Wait, what is this?
The selective, is he worried, he's gonna get in trouble if he plays their audio? Because it's it's AI, it's not copyrighted content.
None of the tropes ever even make fucking sense.
I don't fucking
Why
know.
would the
I don't know.
family get rich off of selling their own kind? Or maybe this is some sort of symbolism for slavery. I don't know. This is just such a weird trope that continues to go on. Unsurprisingly, because these are red pill talking points, it always ends with the man bossing up, getting rich, getting successful, or, ditching the woman, lifting weights, becoming super strong, while the woman is left destitute and used up by the same fruit that they had left their husband and their family for. That's why these are the same talking points of the Myrons, of the Walters, of any of these red pill dudes from the last 5 years, just made into AI slop videos for the casual consumer. The only thing that those videos are missing is the underscore of the incoherent babbling singer.
Now, what do you think girls want from men?
In general, if a woman is going to dedicate herself to a man, then that man has to be all-encompassing. He has to be a man who can fix most of her problems. He needs to provide stability and safety, which everybody knows, but not many people consider that he also has to provide drama for her. He also has to be entertaining for her.
Arguably the biggest issue in this new era of AI content, where they play out these nasty stereotypes and these nasty rhetoric, is that they are targeting an unsuspecting audience with this very colorful, very bright imagery, something that looks attractive and something that looks polished. And the reason why this AI fruit...
If you unnecessarily cause drama in my life to, spice things up, I'm just kicking you to the fucking curb.
The bright colors, these inanimate objects being made into humanistic things are clear indicators to me that this is supposed to resemble some sort of cartoon, like a Cartoon Network show where fruit comes to life, or maybe something that's on Nickelodeon. Hell, babysitting my godkids, I've definitely seen fruit videos before that aren't harmful. They don't have bad messaging, but they look very, very similar to this AI fruit slop.
It's is it entertaining though? Is it just stimulation? Is it just like Cocomelon or baby stimulation videos where it's
kid audience, you'll most likely have,
just because it's distracting them doesn't mean that's a good thing.
Many of these videos are AI generated. But they're being recommended to children on YouTube under the guise of teaching. And many of them have millions of views. We found about 40% of the videos that were being recommended to us appear to be AI generated.
You're creating content for an algorithm instead of for a human. Things just get strange, really strange. In fact, a year ago, someone left a comment on Bridal's TED Talk saying that they were traumatized by these videos as a child and referred to the people who made them as monsters and terrible people. The thing from this piece that I find really depressing are all of the tutorials about this as a get-rich-quick scheme. Use AI to make YouTube content for children.
And so now these algorithms can't really tell what is or is not some sort of AI fruit video that should be pushed to kids or shouldn't be. They're looking at the imagery and they're saying that, hey, this looks similar to other types of content. And then they're pushing it to an audience accordingly. Don't be surprised if in the future we see already familiarized child characters like Doc McStuffins or Coco Melon and different AI renditions of them filled with slop and covert messaging about racism, misogyny, homophobia, red pill talking points, or even worse, these cuckold fantasies where the father takes care of another fruit's baby. So many people people to me are focused on the fact that AI is affecting the water, and not saying that that's not a bad thing, and it's also messing up creativity. It's doing a lot of harm, but I do see it as a vessel to push harmful and nasty rhetoric, and only a few creators that I see on this platform are actually bringing that to the forefront.
So today we're going to be talking about fruit colorism. I never thought I would ever say those two words in the same sentence, but due to these AI slop videos, I started to realize that y'all are using fruit to perpetuate colorism. You see how the grapefruits are darker, and they're seen as the aggressive, more masculine, rough.
Did she say grapefruit or eggplant?
Petite white strawberry is seen as like the soft and innocent type, and this is literally colorism. Another example here, you have this dark, I don't even know what that's supposed to be, but then you have her light peach, and often it's like through these hypersexual roles. This is what gets me about the whole AI slop thing of it all, is that even with the ability to remake this world and think of like imaginative things that we haven't seen before, you want to recreate the exact same systems that we're living in, but make it in fruit.
So I'm urging people to be careful. Like, these aren't just funny ass videos where this most outrageous Tyler Perry script is animated. That's not what this is. This is racism. This is homophobia. This is all these bad things put into something that fits into your CRISPR tool. If you have kids and they have free access to an iPad or anything like that, anytime you hear that music going on, please run in there and grab the phone from them.
Like, why? Okay, you sung it one time, dude. Oh my god. It went to the next video, I was so confused. Okay, that's the Tyler Catastrophe one. I'm saving that one, because, like, I'm just gonna be glued to my fucking phone watching it. Ooh, I know. God fucking damn it. I hate when you type in a site and it auto-completes to not the site you're looking for. Pulling. I forgot you can do that with YouTube. You can like pull the captions and like move it around, which is helpful if the captions are obviously over something you need to look at. My fucking voice cracked and I burped at the same time. Embarrassing. Where did the fucking video go? Okay, so she has multiple videos on Brian Gnome. And when I'm searching it on here, it's not coming up, but okay. Is it like A/B testing? Yeah, no, it's a different video. Whatever. We'll do this one. That one's also long enough that I don't have to search for another video for a minute. Okay. Okay, I guess I did start listening to like 5 minutes in, and then I was like, I want to save this for when I stream. So playing it now.
Hey guys, it's Kat, and today we're here to talk about.
I used to listen to a lot of Cat Black in high school.
And his cross-dressing habit. This is a topic that a lot of people have been asking me to address, and I just got back from a trip in San Francisco. I was up at the YouTube headquarters for a Transgender Day of Visibility. I had the opportunity to spend some time with other transgender content creators, Ty Turner and Devin Spears, and I had a really, really great time. It was such a great little experience, and I'm very thankful for YouTube for having me for the day. But
I need you to stop being needy right now.
Back to reality, and people were trying to tell me about this while I was on the road, so I literally just got off the plane, just got back home, and the very first thing I did is open up my computer to sit down and film this video. So we're going to be talking about this. I'm going to read an article about it, then I'm going to go over a thread that I wrote about it, and then we're going to watch some other people commenting on it, and I'm going to obviously share my thoughts about that. If you enjoy content like this, please subscribe to this channel. Over here we try to be hot and introspective, and we try to have conversations about things that are commonly misunderstood. I am somebody who is in the middle of a bit of a rebrand. You guys see I'm wearing this t-shirt, and I got some sample merch behind me. I'm trying to enter into a more creative era. I'm ordering a bunch of samples and doing a bunch of different things with what I'm doing on the internet, so bear with me. The point will always be to be hot and introspective over here, so if you guys enjoy content like that, please consider subscribing to my channel. There are some people who are going to be able to listen to every little bit of mistake I made when trying to film this, because I have been uploading my raw footage to my members only and also my Patreon. I was going to do some members only live streams, but I have not been able to figure that out, so I've met this happy medium of kind of giving you guys the raw footage of what it would have been like. A lot of you guys see that I am only as eloquent as I edit myself sometimes, so yeah. Anyway, if you're interested in seeing that stuff, please consider becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon member. The big difference between the two platforms is, frankly, right now at least, I tend to post content a little bit more frequently on YouTube than I do Patreon. But on Patreon, I do make vlogs about my personal and work life, and I try to have a little bit more of a transparent conversation over there. So if you are just down to, listen to me ramble about what I'm doing, check me out on Patreon specifically. If you don't like mess, this ain't the video for you, but if you do like mess, let's get into it. So the Daily Mail published photos and messages this week showing Chrissy Gnome's husband wearing fake breasts with protruding nipples and tight
Queen,
talking to spicy accountants.
get off the desk, please.
Now, according to Axios reporter Mark,
I love you.
Came from an unlikely source, and a documented immigrant who's also a spicy accountant whose services Brian Gnome used. They wanted to go public to get revenge for the evil mass deportation policies that Chrissy Gnome pushed while running the Department of Homeland Security. In the photos, Chrissy Gnome's husband poses in what looks like a skin-tight suit with balloons stuffed in his shirt to create these big old titties. In some shots, he makes a kissy face at the camera, and according to the report, he sent at least $25,000 to women in the vivification fetish scene. Apparently, vivification
Okay, so that is synced. I couldn't tell.
One of the spicy accountants that he hired asked him about the rumors about Chrissy Gnome punching her DHS chief of staff. He reportedly told the accountant, "I know, there's nothing I can do about it." And just in case y'all don't remember, Chrissy Gnome has been linked to a man named
Keep your shit separate.
Insurance in his home state, and he is the husband of Kristi Noem, the former Secretary of Home.
People are so fucking lazy with that shit.
Apparently, the woman was shocked, and she said, "I thought you should care. Your wife could lose everything she's ever worked for." Apparently, he'd been active in a fetish community for 14 months and had paid this particular sex worker and other women apparently at least $25,000 through PayPal and Cash App using the name Jason Jackson. And apparently, when the Daily Mail reached out to Brian for confirmation, they did not get a no. In fact, he apparently reacted by saying that his interests were not a national security risk. Now, obviously, this information could be used to manipulate things within the government. People could blackmail Kristi Noem because of this, and so I guess to some degree it is. That's kind of what this article is going into a little bit. I will link the article if you want to read it in the comment box below. Apparently, on Megyn Kelly's show, she said that if this information was known, Kristi Noem would not have gotten the position, and I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt at all that he had hid it. I don't doubt at all that it was something that he wasn't very open with, but I do think that Kristi Noem was aware. Now, I think one of the most scandalous aspects of this story that not a ton of people are talking about is apparently the fact that this was leaked back in February to an Axios reporter named Mark Caputo from an immigrant sex worker. So apparently this sex worker was undocumented, and she was presumably doing sex work with the husband of the woman who was responsible for deportations, right? So for many reasons, people believe that this is revenge, and frankly, I'm not mad at the person for this, right? Like, there's a whole conversation to be had about whether or not men like this should be ousted, but I'm gonna be so real with you, I'm not mad about it. I'm really not mad about it, and you can come at me
Neither
if you
am
think
I.
I should be, because frankly, if these
I think
people are
generally-
wrong, why should I? Mark Caputo says on Twitter,
Generally, there's no reason to out people except for in cases like this.
February 13th. They said an immigrant sex worker, possibly in the country illegally, wanted to go public about
And frankly, I think
using her services online. It was vengeance.
people getting
for the
mad about
DHS's
them being outed, they're just kind of
enforcement.
mad that
I
the
couldn't
money's
land
gone,
the interview.
which, like,
Apparently right now, Kristi Noem is
I
saying
guess,
she's blindsided,
yeah, I get
and
it,
I
but
kind of want to get into this, so we're going to read my
I don't
thoughts about
know.
this now, because I don't believe it. And if you really think about it, the alleged affair that she's been having, that I don't actually think is that alleged, they kind of admitted to it, makes a lot more sense now. Now let's get into why. So if you guys are not already following me on Instagram, you should. Instagram is where I've been sharing some of these posts. You can also see some pictures of myself and my boyfriend if you want. And I've been sharing these threads that I write on Threads, and they've been doing pretty well. And so if you are interested in them, go click over on my Instagram. But I will read it to you here because a lot of people seem to appreciate it. All right, I say, of course Brian Noem is a cross-dressing fetishist who patronized undocumented sex workers. Genuinely one of the least surprising things to me as a transgender woman who spent most of her life around white evangelical Christian men who often privately revealed to me that they cross-dressed. What no one is willing to admit is that no one has more of a fetish for gender than cishet people who heavily police gender. Kristi Noem, being a bigot, married to a cross-dresser, makes a lot of sense to me. When you look at how she's changed over the years and the look that she's cultivated, this all becomes kind of obvious. Many of these MAGA men are closeted cross-dressers. For many of these men, the most embarrassing but erotic thing they can be is a woman. In their mind, to be a woman is to be a sex object. To be feminine is to be embarrassing. These men are often transphobic, believing this is also how transgender women feel. Bimbofication is ultimately escapism into an objectified conception of a woman, and this can look many ways, but it is often informed by misogyny, and the idea of femininity being a manifestation of lesser intelligence. It's often intentionally harsh. We'll talk about that a bit more later. Brian Noem has a bimbofication fetish, but he also has a humiliation fetish, and that's why he took these photos showing
It's sort of like with the
person whom he understood could ruin his life. These men often have complex views
being fucking crazy.
about their station in life. often stressing about how it could all be taken away from them.
It's sort of like the AI fruit thing, where it's like
Playing their role. You can almost count on men who
associating like hypermasculinity with blackness. It's very weird and intentional.
Not because they are also transgender, but because when you are one of the few trans women in a predominantly conservative town, these men chase after you. Sometimes they fetishize trans women, and to them, it's all gender play. They will shift between personas, with their cross-dress persona being a private one they hide, even from the women they speak to online or patronize. Many of these men believe that transgender women or sex workers are going to be more accepting of them than their wives. Sometimes they will hire trans sex workers explicitly to feminize them. These men will hide their secret from their wives, but they will also steal their clothing. They will randomly wear their panties and clothes, and even wear those clothes while meeting up with other people, sometimes men. To be clear, not all cross-dressers are misogynistic men who view femininity as embarrassing, but I would say that it's a huge portion of them. And for the ones who have a humiliation fetish, they are terrified and thus excited by the idea of being exposed. There is an entire side of the internet dedicated to this, where these men will post photos of themselves, their full name, and their IDs, with the hope that one day they will be exposed. Sex workers interact with these men constantly, and these men often rely on the idea of these sex workers being ostracized and unsupported. They know that they're going to be doubted when they go to authorities. He chose an undocumented sex worker for a reason. These men frequently leverage their position in society, and what many people do not understand is that this is incredibly common. These men pursued me the most when I was in conservative communities. It's not that liberal men aren't into this, but from what I've seen, living in super conservative OC versus fairly liberal LA, is that quite often there's
And people try to tell me like, oh, like California can't be liberal, and it's like,
of masculinity, often fetishizing the idea of being feminine.
clearly you haven't been to Central
If
California
not literally, in the
or Orange
context
County.
of
It's
other
like,
men being dominant over them in one way or another. See cuckoldry and
I don't know.
BBC fetishism. I doubt Christie was unaware. To be blunt, this is fairly
did I say liberal or
commonplace.
conservative? I
Wife
meant
discovers
conservative.
husband is a cross-dresser, but only after stumbling upon it. Only after it's a bit too late to say that the feelings and history are irrelevant. They have kids, 34 years of marriage and 3 kids. Her finding a side piece makes a lot of sense. She wanted a real man, and this was probably the agreement that they made so that he can continue seeing the women who are willing to fulfill his fetish. A compromise to stay together. This arrangement isn't uncommon, but it's not commonly discussed in public. Many wives, with reasons to hold on to the marriage and the societal privilege that comes with it, will turn a blind eye to their husband going to sex workers and often feel that that is a better path than them pursuing a romantic connection with another person. What's interesting to me about this as a polyamorous trans woman with 3 boyfriends, some of whom share what I'm into and some of whom do not, is that these people want to stigmatize me and oppress me. They want for me to experience rejection and oppression because of who I am. It's hard not to clock that as jealousy. He can be into these things and she can have a boyfriend and a husband, but the hate is lucrative, socially and politically. These people do not want to be free. Let's talk a bit about that. So, when I heard the story, I cannot tell you how unsurprised I was. It was literally one of the most, obvious things in the world.
Fork found in kitchen.
And I respect that there are a lot of people who, they need to have this explained to them, and I'm not going to attack people for not knowing.
I can still fucking hear noise in the background.
You're not going to see it. And being
So
the sort of person
annoying.
I am as, a black trans woman who is alternative, right? I interact with a lot of these people. And I've interacted with a lot of these people. I want to make it very clear that cross-dressing is not just one thing. There are people who cross-dress and it's completely a non-sexual thing. There are people who cross-dress out of self-expression. There are people for whom wearing the clothing that is assigned to the gender that society sees as the opposite of them is not very transgressive at all. It's just kind of like what they like, and I'm not here to stigmatize gender nonconformity. There is something to be said about a very specific brand of man who identifies very much as a man who has this fetish. If you guys watched my video that I made over on Movies in My Closet about the Sam Rockwell monologue, I go into detail about this because he speaks about what's behind stuff like this pretty decently well. In fact, I'll put a clip of that into this video.
And I got in my head what I really wanted was to be one of these Asian girls getting fucked by me and to feel that. So I put out an ad looking for a white guy my age come over and fuck me. That guy looked a lot like me. Then I put on some lingerie and perfume, made myself look like one of these girls. I thought I looked pretty hot.
What the
And then
fuck?
this guy came over and railed the shit out of me. Then I got addicted to that. Some nights 3, 4 guys would come over and rail the shit out of me. Some I even had to pay. And at the same time, I'd hire an Asian girl to just sit there and watch the whole thing. I'd look in her eyes while some guy was fucking me, and I'd think, I am her, and I'm fucking me.
This is a thing that
I've met
interacted
people
with a lot
who, like-
a lot of these men, they try to include transgender women in one way or another.
I'm
A lot
like
of these men
convinced that
are
they
very
deep down
transphobic,
want
right?
something like
So
this
people
by the
think
way that they
this is a
talk
huge
about women.
contradiction, and you could maybe argue that it is.
I don't know.
But frankly, it's just a continuation
If
of
you
the
know,
same
you
shit.
know, I guess.
It's just something that a lot of people don't understand because you're not a trans woman or a sex worker or a trans sex worker, right? Because this is something that is incredibly commonplace among sex workers.
Christino's husband is a crossdresser, and once again, sex workers could get the new.
Oh, I follow her.
Wanted to. All the
Beslian?
weird, secret, dirty little things that men do behind closed doors, we know about them. Rich, high-powered, very influential men pay to see us, and they tell us everything. We're basically underpaid and underqualified psychologists. Yeah, I don't find the cross-dressing surprising. Fact is, a lot of men like to do it. A lot of men want to put on a pair of little lace panties and a pair of fake titties and be told that they're a dirty, nasty little girl, and then be made to do dirty, nasty things. Which is fine, it's fine, I love it for all of us. However, it's often men like that who have wives like that. It's often Christian, conservative, hateful ex-men like that. Everybody out here is surprised, except for sex workers. Because we already know. And I want to emphasize, there's nothing wrong with cross-dressing. There's nothing wrong with playing with transgressive ideas in a consensual manner in the bedroom. But what I want to point out and emphasize is how these people project their disgust and their hate for LGBTQIA people and then do this kind of stuff in private. Every accusation, a confession. They do not want queer people to be free because they are not free. They want to force queer people back into the closet because they are forced to be in the closet. It's all a whole lot of projection. Anyway, I want more sex workers out, more of these politicians and
I come across a lot of like
they don't give a fuck about us and our safety. Why do we care about yours?
amongst conservative people like I suffer so they need to suffer too, and it's like why don't we just
Have any of them faced consequences? No. Anyway, as
Not.
always, decarcerate, destigmatize, and decriminalize sex work. Yeah, Christian.
And that's the thing, right? I try to talk about this, and I know that some people are not fond of this particular talking point, but it's really not a talking point. It's like, it's what it is, right? You guys have to remember that Donald Trump, many years ago, was ousted by a sex worker, right? And then everyone attacked that sex worker. This is like a tale as old as time. You guys think that when you ban things like OnlyFans and you take away some of the leverage that sex workers have, some of the worker rights that sex workers have, you think that that's going to save them. But really what it does is it puts them in a situation that reinforces the kind of situation that this guy was hoping for. This guy went for an undocumented sex worker for a reason. This person pursued an undocumented sex worker because he knew that he could take advantage of her, right? And when to argue that sex workers shouldn't be stigmatized and shouldn't be listened to and should be dismissed, you're really just kind of justifying this shit. And I want for people to recognize that they really should pay attention to the way that people try to come for sex workers' rights, because oftentimes they are the front line, directly interacting with men who have expendable income. Often these men are very rich, often these men are very powerful, and they use their position coupled with the stigma that sex workers have against them to get away with doing what they're doing. Don't be part of the problem.
I was not surprised in the slightest to wake up and see the bimbofication of Kristi Noem's husband is going viral right now. But what I was surprised to see is that so many people are surprised by this. The thing is, most people, most members of society do not get a glance at humanity the way that strippers, ex workers, everybody under that umbrella does. But I can tell you, and this is literally not in a hateful way at all, because these are my favorite clientele. But these like really high power people across all sorts of professions, typically, and I like don't want to generalize and say always, but in the case with me, every single time I have dealt with a client that is high power.
Oh, I love her too. All these people I follow.
Tennis ball crushing, some sort of humiliation, some sort of power and control dynamic where I'm the one in power and they're the ones giving up power. I had one recently where a person in a position of power wanted me to them, and they gave me their wife's phone number and basically wanted me to boss them around, or I would threaten to call their wife on them and tell them that they were talking to me. It really isn't that shocking to me to hear that this person, Kristi Noem's husband, was like wearing a breastplate and chatting to bimbofication performers online, because a lot of times these people in positions of power, when they're on their off time, they want anything but power. When all they do in their professional life is enact power over people, when they're not working, they want their power to be taken away. And they do this with SW workers, performers like me. They have discretion. It's also easier to discredit an S worker in media. And although I get online and I talk about my experiences, never will you ever hear me dropping names or personal details. Frequently, I find clientele because of my videos online. They're okay with me sharing experiences. To me, there is also nothing bizarre about someone putting on a breastplate. Like, we haven't gotten past this as a society. Obviously, Noem and her husband are horrible people, and I am not discounting that. What I don't like is how people are attacking the cross-dressing community. I believe that phrase is okay to use. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And attacking the trans community.
It ends up being like a very slippery slope to being transphobic and kink shaming.
On people in society who are kind of secretly enacting their fantasies because they are afraid they're going to be shamed by society, as well as this is very normal. This is very normal, and I am pretty sure it's happening like with every single person of high power in our government. Not necessarily like this specific interest, but things under this umbrella, I promise you, it's happening with all of them. I was not surprised.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that's just so fascinating about all of this is it is so common. It is so common, but it's one of those things that it's common, but people don't really talk about it publicly. And sex workers obviously are very familiar with it. Trans women are obviously very familiar with it. People within the kink community are obviously very familiar with it. But if you're not a person who has these conversations regularly, you would probably not know. A lot of sex workers have shared that they've had experiences with men who are high up, who have a lot of money, who are used to being in power, and they've shared that one of their main things that they want when they are engaging in a transaction is to not feel powerful. Again, for a lot of people, bimbofication is escapism, right? Usually, these men are trying to do this because they're trying to sort of live out what they imagine is like the hypersexualized experience of a woman. And it is very misogynistic.
As a queer man who's gone to PWIs his entire life, all of your dads are exactly like Kristi Noem's husband. All of your white male fathers are exactly like Kristi Noem's husband. Let me repeat that. All of your dads want to be treated, want to be feminized like Kristi Noem's husband. I've feminized some of
Like, I love being masculinized sometimes.
They want to know what it feels
Maybe it's not like the same thing, like social context wise, but like
things, women parts during sex.
I don't know.
And, like, that is what turns them on. Like, that is what makes them horny. That, like, gender reversal. It's that idea that, like, in their everyday life, they're just normal men. Like, most white men have this plaguing guilt in their everyday lives because they are, like, at the top of this social hierarchy that's based on a myth. And so when they get into the bedroom, the one place where they can, like, take off the myth, take off the mask, nothing seems better to them than, like, experiencing the other end of the stick of which they are the oppressor. It's like a fun little experiment. In reality, though, it's liberating for them because when you've lived your entire life being at the top of a food chain without deserving to be at the top of the food chain, like, it almost is liberating to see you in a more natural, subservient position. Because maybe that's where you feel like you actually belong, you know? This is not to
Interesting.
say that, like, women are subservient, but because of the patriarchy, women are naturally in the subservient position because of the patriarchy. And even during sex, like, the position women are in is like a subservient bottom position. These men marry women and watch, like, heterosexual porn, but, like, the entire time they're watching heterosexual porn, they're looking at the woman in the video. Like, the entire time they're watching their heterosexual porn, they're looking at the woman in the video. They want to be the woman in the video. Like, as much as it's like, oh, this is hetero, like, no, they're projecting an image. Like, what turns them on is, like, wondering what it would feel like to be a woman. Like, so many men, they're like, if I was a woman, I would run this world. If I was a woman, I would, if I was a woman, I would have sex with anyone. I would have orgies around me. I would get gang raped. Like, these are the type of men. It's those men.
And I think that is such a good point that for a lot of white men, because of white supremacy, because of whiteness, right, they feel an anxiety that is kind of based in them feeling like they don't quite deserve it.
Christy Nome's husband was exposed by an illegal immigrant sex worker for having a bimbification fetish where he wears big fake titties with protruding nipples. This is the post-Kirk timeline that we live in. Why an overwhelming...
Okay, this video I haven't seen. Well, the last one I didn't see previous either.
Overwhelming amount of white men have a cuck or sissification or bimbo fetish. I need to know what the psychology behind this is. Is it because white men are like, they assume that they take the power role in the world? So like in the sexual fantasies that they play in, are they trying to give up that
I was talking about this with, like, specifically, like, Trump voters wanting to be
demonize the people who you align with
shamed for it in a sexual context, and I think it's like part of it is also like
what is going on? Y'all know that photo that's like
the threat of it being of the power being taken away.
What is going on with y'all?
But at the end of the day, it's not.
It is an obsession with this role play, this gender play. They have this thing where it's like being a man is this performance that they are exhausted of. And so at a certain point, they start to fetishize the idea of being the other, of being feminized, of being, again, the thing that they would be the most embarrassed to be, which is a woman. And to expand on my point that I made in my thread about, C, cuckoldry and BBC fetishism, that's also something she's mentioning here. It's all because a lot of men view a lot of things as transactional, and they view a lot of things through a lens of like, I need to win, or I'm being screwed over, right? And so a lot of men, for example, will have anxiety about their wife finding a man that is superior to them sexually, right? Maybe that's a little bit of what's going on here. And to bring it into that whole conversation, because his wife was having an
that
affair,
just sounds terrible.
it is very common for an aspect of cuckoldry to be that the husband allowing her to have sex with other men to be feminized by the very action of giving her permission to do so. This is very commonly something that goes hand in hand. A lot of times, even in cup porn, there's this whole thing that happens where this superior guy, whether he's a black guy or just some guy who just happens to be more functional than him, is having sex with this woman, and in the process of it, as the scene goes on, and as things get more intense, he's becoming more and more feminized until at the very end of it all, the crescendo of it all, when he's finally done with her, it is his job to then go and take care of her and clean up, and even clean up the guy who did it, right? And a lot of times, by the time that happens, he's in a fully feminine persona, and this is almost something that's completely separated from who he is. It's escapism, right? Now, you can debate about whether or not those guys are, bisexual, maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, the point I'm making is it's all kind of gender play, because even in situations where that happens, a lot of these men can only imagine.
What is that one case of the guy who killed his son because his son found out about his
these things go hand in hand, and all of them
sissy
have to
diaper
do with
fetish? It was really fucking sad,
men often
actually.
feel about being a man, about having a wife, having children, being able to perform that role and excel at it. A lot of men feel like they are failures at it.
Mark
And so they
Redwine.
start to fetishize the entire experience.
His son was Dylan Redwine.
At it. And to be a failure as a man, through the lens of some people, is to be a woman. That's why when Steven Crowder made his really stupid film about trans women playing basketball, it was all about failed male athletes pretending to be women. To be a failed man is to be a woman in their view, essentially. Not literally, but that's kind of like the way that they often think about it. That's at least the threat, right? That if you're not good as a man, you might as well just be a woman, right? And we see shades of that in the whole Groyper nonsense, right? The whole idea of Nazis and femboys, right? Like, it's all this thing. And I do think that because whiteness is so tied to patriarchy, this is something you see a lot in white men. And frankly, I think the times where I've seen this in men of color, those are men who are pretty indoctrinated by white supremacy more often than not. And so all of this is, I think, kind of part of the same anxiety. And again, like I said at the end of my thread, a lot of these people do not want to be free. They're not interested in living in a world where they can actually just practice these things. It is quite literally an anxiety that they have that they are completely fine maintaining. Because if they maintain that anxiety, it also justifies the premise of their taboo, right? I think something that people also don't really understand is it's supposed to be kind of garish. A lot of people are asking, why does he look like that? Like, you could have gotten good breastplates, you could have gotten, something that actually looked convincing.
It's
my
probably
boyfriend even said it's
shameful to commit that much to it.
It's always some bullshit. The point is, when they think of a woman, they're not thinking necessarily of beauty. They're thinking about how embarrassing it would be for them to be one.
Yeah, it's not about it being super accurate either.
Right? Men, when you've had conversations with them about just developing breasts, their understanding and imagination of what it's like to develop breasts, right? All they want to do is talk about how they would play with them, and how they would get the biggest, most ridiculous boobs in the world. And when you look at some of the messages, right, that's kind of what he talked about, right? Because that's the way that these men view women's bodies, right? As this kind of ridiculous thing that's sort of embarrassing but sexually satisfies them, right? So for a lot of these men, it's never going to be about genuine feminine gender expression, because that's not what they're doing. They're more so getting off to the feeling that they're getting by closing their eyes, feeling their misshapen breasts, and imagining that they actually have them, kind of thing. And that's not the same as gender dysphoria, where you feel like your biology is actively working against you. I understand that for a lot of cis people, looking, from the outside, you think that a trans woman and someone like this is exactly the same, because theoretically these are both people who are designated male at birth, who are feminizing themselves in one way or another. And that's why when I listen to a lot of these conservatives talk about trans women being like the realization of a fetish. I bristle my nose because what I know from what I've lived through and experienced is that these men are everywhere. These men are absolutely everywhere. And these men are far more common than any trans woman ever will be.
So you mean to tell me that Christine Holmes' husband got
Stretch
proposed
break.
to a cross-dresser on the same day as trans
My
people?
leg always cracks when I do this.
Like we won, but I also want to make it abundantly clear that people who identify as cross-dressers and people who run in like cross-dresser community, they are not the same as queer people, and they are not the same as trans people. I got booked for a styling job, and I was told it was a trans woman. I show up, husband, wife on the wall, kids on the wall, and mind you, I'm showing up with a friend that's getting ready to make him have, you know, some good titties, a good butt. We have thousands of dollars of dresses, makeup, Louboutins, everything, and this man is a straight man. And so I'm sitting in the car with him, and so I get him talking. I like ask him about his wife and kids, ask him about like his life and stuff, and he tells me that he's like definitely okay with his wife and kids never finding out about this. It's just something that he likes to like indulge in and enjoy on the side. And I almost felt disrespected by that because I live my life on an everyday basis. And so to hear that somebody has the privilege to like do all these things, like have a full team of people produce a photo shoot for you on the side and have nobody find out about it in your personal life, I just feel like that's the insidious nature that definitely like separates them from being within like traditional queer community, among other things. But yeah, I just want to make that clear for this story that like people who identify as
Like it's just clothing. It's just clothing. It's just hair. It's just makeup.
So
like
hard for a lot of people to understand, right? Like these men,
people have
I know that it seems
the right to not be out about something, but like
but a lot of the times these are
I
not
see where they're
people
coming from with it.
interested in men, and they're not men who even really identify at all with what they're doing. A lot of transgender women will wear feminine clothing as an expression of their gender, but it is not the feminine clothing that then makes them their gender. And I don't know a single trans person who thinks that, right? That has to do with what's here, not right here, right? This may affirm what's up in here, but they're not part of the same thing. And so I know that for a lot of people it seems similar, but it's really not. It's really not. And that aggravates me mostly because, well, what are we looking at this guy do, right? This guy is clearly a misogynist. He's a white nationalist. He is married to fucking Christine Nome, right? Has 3 children with her. What I see is that a lot of these men don't actually want to live in a world where they can do all these things, where, you know, he could have his femininity, right? He doesn't want to be a person who, you know, maybe goes to work in a pair of high heels, you know, because he really likes high heels, right? He doesn't want to be someone who's open about his femininity. He relies almost exclusively on it being seen as taboo. And it's how that is seen as taboo within society that is actually part of his kink. Part of his kink is the fact that it's embarrassing for someone like him to be feminine. So what I see is when these people are being transphobic or homophobic or whatever, they're really just trying to maintain that more than anything. It's literally not a contradiction, it's just a continuation of the same shit. And I wish that people understood that for so many people, the other exists as polarity within their erotic system. They need for there to be an oppressed other for them to actually get off. And that's part of why this shit's so, in my opinion, fucked, right? Like, this particular brand of crossdresser is misogynistic, right? He relies on the idea of women being ostracized and othered and hated in our society to justify what's happening here. This is a fetish for them. It exists purely as a fetish for them. It's not part of their identity. This is something that they do privately and secretly, and many of them do completely fabricate these entirely separate personas that exist in their mind completely independently of them. And I'm not saying that's necessarily what this guy did, but I'm saying that, like, this is not part of his identity. This is a habit. It's a pattern. It's something that he does. It's not who he is. Which is why a lot of these men will continue to identify as straight.
I'll just mute that.
Which is why a lot of these men will continue to identify as men. Because this is escapism that they're participating in is just that. I've often said that I think autogynephilia as a term, in the way that people have used it, isn't like a thing, really. But I do think there are shades of that when it comes to this particular genre of cross-dresser. Because why would a man with a lot of money and a wife and kids hire a bunch of people to do a photo shoot of him where he gets to have his boobs looking great, his ass looking great, lots of nice dresses, lots of nice shoes, to take sexy pictures, right? And it's because, like, a lot of times these guys, they are part of these online fetish websites where the main thing they do is take very extravagant photos of themselves, cross-dressed, and they often will trade those images with other cross-dressers. It's a very common thing. It's weird because it is such an underground, it seems like, in a lot of ways, but it's so common. It is so incredibly common. It's so common that I could almost count on running into someone who's like that.
And to further elaborate on the Chrissy Gnome conversation, this is why when the girls be like, I didn't know, whether it's a man being DL or whatever, I side-eye it because, again, the same skills that I crafted and I had to utilize with a cheating-ass man are the same skills that help you figure out that your husband has some triple D-ass titties that he wears in chat rooms. You were the governor of South Dakota. Because unlike many people in that fuck-ass cabinet that Trump put together, bitch, you were the head kahuna. You were the head bitch in charge. You have been on a scrutinized platform. And white men never stop what they like doing because white men never have to stop what they like doing. And the level of boldness to be in a chat room and your wife was the governor and now was the, you knew you didn't care. You didn't care. You knew you didn't care. A lot of girls know and don't care until they gotta care. Could y'all imagine if this was Barack Obama, the way the world would be tearing that whole black family apart? This is, yes, I laugh and I joke, but on a deeper level, on today being trans day visibility, on the fucking Supreme Court deeming conversion therapy as it could be seen as free speech. These people are making all of these laws, these people are doing all of these things about the sanctity of life and Christianity. Oops. And they're never faithful in their relationships, in their marriages. This woman has put her affair in front of us, in front of Congress. They cross-dress, they take fists up their ass. They don't even be trans and queer. You're straight getting fisted? You're straight and getting fisted? Wow. My God. Could you imagine? I can't. I'm sitting here thinking these motherfuckers are bold as fuck and they're gonna give family privacy at this time. No, bitch, fuck you. Walk his ass out here, bitch, and tar and feather him in the center of the town square in Elk Point, South Dakota. Actually, take him out there by motherfucking goddamn me, Mount Rushmore. Yeah, in your jeggings. In your jeggings. Super Max Deluxe ass titty plate. You didn't see that on the credit card, knees?
She's too funny. I mean, that's the thing, is it really is ridiculous. One thing I'll comment on that she talks about in this video is the audacity, the unmitigated bull, baby. Because when I tell you, like, one of the things that would always get me whenever I was interacting with these people is like, you got a wife, you got kids, you got a house, and you're literally saying the most repulsive shit to me. Why do you feel so comfortable doing that? Why are you so comfortable just saying bullshit, really? And it's actually quite scary. I do think that an aspect of this is race. I really do. I'm not going to say that there aren't men of color who do this, because I know that there are definitely men of color who do this. But there's something about white men specifically where this is such a thing for them. Because when I was in Valencia and San Dimas or City of Orange or Mission Viejo for sure, right? These dudes were everywhere. They really were. Always white dudes with everything.
You know, like everything.
Like, they had the dream, right? Like, so many of these men weren't like some dude in an apartment somewhere. They were some dude with a house and a wife and kids. And it's clear to me that, like, their desire to do this is directly connected to the role that they have to perform in order to secure all of those things, you know? And it's so bizarre. it's so bizarre because at the end of the day, like, it just seems like you would be the least likely to do it. But I think most of the time, they don't expect for this to happen. Like, they might get excited by the idea of being exposed. They may be excited by the idea of being caught, but like, it's never really gonna happen, you know? And usually it's not gonna happen because of just how powerful that man is. And I do think that's a big part of it. Like, white men are often able to just put down that trump card, right? In ways that men of color aren't always. And maybe that's why I've seen it mostly with white men. Maybe.
I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'd like to talk about what's happening with Christy. For context, I have helped a lot of couples through these types of revelations where one person has been living a secret life or has been holding a secret from the other partner, and the other partner has found out, and that's why they're seeking couples counseling. Noam's husband is into something called bimbofication, and I'm going to be very careful in the language I'm using, but it is essentially where consensual adults really embrace wearing makeup and dressing as feminine as possible. And you can read the article to kind of learn more about his particular tastes. Christy Noam has known this. She has known this for a very long time, and now her affair with, I think his name is Corey, her affair makes more sense now, because I was trying to figure out why two married people would be having an affair that is the worst kept secret in Washington. I always feel terrible for people who are closeted or feel like they have to hide their kinks, and because they can never truly be who they are, and so they are destructive to themselves and they are destructive to their families. So Christy probably learned about this early on, because when you get married, you try to make that person enough. And so he might have asked for certain things in the bedroom, try to satisfy him and make him happy. And Christy might have gone along with that for a little bit, but she would eventually figure out that, okay, this is beyond what typically happens between a married couple. And whether she walked in on him or he eventually told her, I don't know the answer to those questions, but I feel very certain that she knew, and that's why she felt so confident going into an extramarital affair. I suspect that she wasn't ousted because of this affair or because she was doing a terrible job as DHS. I think was ousted because they got wind of this article and it would be an embarrassment to the White House. And so they kind of leaked that she was having this affair and that her husband was so embarrassed by it, knowing that this was probably going to come out. And so they wanted to save face early and distance themselves, so when it did come out, they could distance themselves. And pretty much, I think they're going to throw her under the bus and say bad things about her. Time will tell what they say about her, just to show that just because Trump's likes you today doesn't mean he's going to like you tomorrow or 10 seconds from now. He is an opportunist, and he
is very
doesn't really care about anybody but
hot and
himself.
cold about how he feels about people on his own team.
And now she's ousted and alone, dealing with this, and I think it couldn't happen to a better person. I am not one who looks down on anybody who has a fetish, but what I will say is I just feel terrible when people have to be closeted about it. I would rather people be open and honest about what they're into and enter into a marriage eyes wide open, and I doubt that is what happened. I think this came out within their marriage.
A lot of times, two people who are married are going to seek out a relationship with each other because it means theoretically that they have like mutually assured destruction kind of thing. And so Christy Noam's affair makes a lot of sense to me because in theory they both have something to lose if it ever got out. Now I do sort of think that it wasn't as private as people are trying to make it seem. I do get the vibe that they all knew about everything that was going on, but of course they weren't supposed to bring this to the public. And mind you, I'm partially saying this because
I don't know.
so many people within the swing community, that's kind of what it often ends up being. These are two people who love each other very much. They both have interests that sometimes converge, sometimes diverge. And they say, hey, we're going to explore this together. That's the ideal. But sometimes someone's desires are so upsetting and repulsive that they don't want to go on that journey with you. They literally only want what they thought they had with you. And so it would shock me if for Christy Nome, it was just something that was so off-putting that she was like, look, I'm not going to divorce you. We have 3 kids, but like, I need something and you need something else. Don't tell me about it. A lot of couples who go down this path, they have like a don't ask, don't tell policy. And even more so than that, they have a don't embarrass me policy. So of course it's not totally shocking that
Like,
when it did come out,
I feel so bad for people who aren't able to be open.
she would be like, look, I don't know nothing about it.
Like, you don't have to be down with everything
I'm surprised in the
for
way
them,
that everyone else is.
but
And I'm only saying that because here's the thing. Crossdressers, I'm not going to say couldn't possibly be good at hiding what they're doing from their partner, but I do think they're not that good. And a lot of times they do get found out. A lot of times it does come out.
I think they get so caught up in it
So
that
frankly, it's not something that I think
they end up ignoring stuff.
it's something that usually comes out that they then have to deal with. And a lot of times people are going to choose not to do it. These men are usually relying on the taboo that people feel around both cross-dressing and sex workers. Anyway, you guys, that is kind of what I had to say about the whole Brian Nome situation. One thing I will say, I know that Christy Nome is the most popular one in this conversation. Brian Nome, he isn't that big of a deal, and so when people talk about him, they are making a point of talking about Christy Nome. But I do find it kind of frustrating how so many people are putting her name ahead of Brian Nome's name, so I've tried in this video to hopefully do a little bit of that. I will probably A/B test the title of this video. We'll see which one performs better. Long story short, this is some shit that he did on his own, and so he's the person who, if we're gonna shame someone, he's the person who we probably should shame. I do think that Christy Nome was aware of it, though.
Yeah.
I find it very hard to believe that she was completely unaware of it. I do understand how the government would, though. I do understand how the government probably would know all of this stuff. But anyway, I want to know what you guys have to say about this. I would love to hear explicitly from sex workers, from trans women, from cross-dressers, people who are familiar with this fetish, people who are into humiliation, people who like this whole exposed thing. I would also really like to hear from you. So leave a comment. We like to leave thoughtful comments, so please be thoughtful.
One of the top comments is, aren't these the same kind of people who said drag queens were a danger to little children? And then somebody responded and said, because when they see a drag queen, they incorrectly see themselves, and the men like this dude are indeed dangers to children. Like, I don't necessarily wholeheartedly agree with the second half, but the first one, I think a lot of people feel shame about their own sexuality, and so they misread stuff as a fetish and say it's like a slippery slope because they themselves feel like they are in a slippery slope with their own desires, I guess. I don't know. Wait, there was another one. Another comment says, oh god, that's a long comment. In traditional Christian communities and families, there's a constant pressure to adhere to a certain ideal image. This results in people developing a highly separated public-facing persona, i.e. church face, and a private persona. Suppose Brian suspected Christy of having an affair and Christy suspected Brian of doing stuff behind her back. They could not be honest and fully open up to each other because they wanted to preserve status quo. Having lived their entire lives as traditional Christians, they've been accustomed to the habit of maintaining the church face. This led to the ticking time bomb that goes on to say accumulated in this explosive expose. Yeah. And like Kat was saying about like the don't embarrass me kind of thing, like, oh god, I can't fucking imagine. This was the other one I wanted to watch. Why is it not coming up? Oh, that's another interesting one. 4 years ago. Ooh, I don't know if I want to watch that one. It's about grooming. It's coming up on my phone, but not... This is from 8 days ago. Let me see if I can fucking find it. It's the same channel. There it is. Okay. I want another cup of coffee so bad, but I'd have to go downstairs, and I don't want to do that. playing the next video.
Hey guys, it's Kat, and we're here to do yet another reaction to something that I've seen in my feed. You guys know that we like to keep it hot and expectant around here, and that is exactly what I plan to do in this video. But before we get into the video, I wanted to give a huge shout out to my Patreon members and my YouTube members who have been supporting the work that I do. That is particularly
I'm editing a video for my paid page.
You know, kind of like trying new things. But frankly, I really enjoy
I also have a safer work vlog that I want to upload to probably here as a short on TikTok, on Instagram, where I made some banana bread last night that I'm now eating. But first I gotta do my regular work first. So a video that
my work life. So if you're curious about that, check out
I
my
use a
Patreon
pump.
and also consider becoming a YouTuber. Anyway, let's jump into
and yeah, that's about it.
I figured out
what's going on in the video.
It would probably be a really good idea for
Obviously,
me to update some
you can't
of my feelings
see or
about
hear
the
what I'm
Brian Doe
doing
case,
because
since there has actually been
even if it was a safe for work video, you would just be hearing the same audio over and over again, and that would be annoying.
Have come out and shared
And I'm listening to Brian Gnome controversy.
We would look over them, and I would give you guys my perspective and my feelings about them.
That way it's not just me editing
video,
here.
There were a lot of things that I said about Brian Gnome, mostly that for me, it's pretty obvious that Brian Gnome is a man with a very misogynistic fetish that is more common than most people seem to understand. As a transgender woman, I've had a lot of interactions with people who are like Brian Gnome, and it's one of those things where it's so commonplace that it's sort of surprising to me that so many people are so shocked by it all the time. Now, if you follow my blog, blackinthecity.com, you know that I did write a post in defense of cross-dressing, and I wanted to establish this video by saying a couple of different things that I might not have been clear about in my video. So, as you guys see, let me show you guys my shirt. Not a dom, just a goth. But, as you see from my shirt, I am a person who is kink positive. I'm a person who is accepting and celebratory of kink. And transparently, I've been a BDSM community organizer within the city of Los Angeles for many years. I am not a person who believes that kink is inherently bad, and I also am a person who accepts that a lot of the things that people enjoy are taboo. A lot of those things are not going to be understood or well celebrated and embraced by most people. That's kind of the point for a lot of
I'm gonna take a break editing.
It's taboo. It's something that can't be shared publicly or with everybody, and that is why they keep it private, right? A lot of people were questioning whether or not Brian Gnome is a closet case. I personally think that Brian Gnome is just a man with a fetish, and of course men with fetishes typically keep them secret. I think one of the things we also want to establish right away is that for most of BDSM, it's all about play. Yes, there are some aspects of it that may map very well onto your daily life, but ultimately it's about escapism. And for most men who are into bimbofication, what they enjoy is this idea of escaping into a hyper-feminized, hypersexualized persona, and that's often what it's all about. And for a lot of men who are powerful in their daily lives, this is something that is particularly interesting to them because, frankly, for many of these men, they're walking around in their daily lives with this constant fear of, well, being seen as less of a man. If you read my article about this, the ultimate conclusion I reach is that it's not so much what he's doing in terms of him being a man who's cross-dressing. It's more so the fact that he's doing that while also helping to bring in a white nationalist agenda that very much does want for people like me to, well, not exist anymore. That, for me, is my primary criticism of Brian Gnome. Not his engagement in kink, not his cross-dressing, but the fact that he is engaging in this while also damaging the safety of many transgender people across the country. World experts on genocide have stated that we are in the middle of a transgenocide in the United States.
I am in America.
People like this who engage in this behavior
Why are we talking about genocide?
and also promote that are some of the worst people in the world.
Okay.
But of course, it's not surprising to me because I've engaged with a lot of these people, and what I've recognized is that quite often they have very complex
feelings about trans identity and frankly are not too terribly fond of transgender women beyond fetishizing them. Shout out to my assistant Alyssa.
They want to talk about trans stuff all the fucking time, claiming they hate it, or they don't understand
just
it.
got into the school of her choice. I'm very, very proud of her. So I know that I won't probably be able to work with her once she gets into school, but I'm very, very thankful for how she's helped me up to this point. And she is actually the way that we're actually able to read these Daily Mail articles. So, because she managed to get them for me, and I'm very, very thankful to her. So we're going to read some Daily Mail articles that talk about this. Then we're going to review some photos and some text messages as we go along. Alright, so this is an article called Christy Nome's husband, Brian, paid obscene sum to model he begged to marry him. Read all their lead messages.
I forgot about that part. He asked her to marry him.
Confession. Oh my god. A Barbie doll fetish model has revealed how breast-obsessed Brian Nome promised to marry her during an online romance, insisting, "You're the one I love." Nicole Mercano, 47, says that she spent years as a secret confidant to the cross-dressing husband of former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. The Platinum Blonde claims besotted Brian, 56, bankrolled her trophy bimbo lifestyle, funneling her thousands of dollars to splurge on handbags, fillers, and diamond rings. She
I like androgyny
videos of her colossal
in my presentation
and
sometimes,
smutty chats in which the closeted father
but
of three allegedly
yeah, I would say I'm a woman.
wearing a pink thong.
I've kind of like, when I was a teenager, it was like sort of like, am I like a demi-woman?
To the Daily Mail in an
But
exclusive tell-all. He
I don't know.
wanted
I don't think too hard about it, I guess.
bimbo bride. The Daily Mail stunned the world last week by publishing exclusive photos of clean-cut Brian Nome wearing enormous fake breasts and hot pants. Blindsided, Kristi asked for prayers after we revealed her husband of 34 years was squeezing into a skimpy outfit to chat with fetish models online. Now, at this point, I'm gonna make a statement. The way this article is written, and this is the Daily Mail, they are very clearly trying to fixate specifically on how odd it is that Brian Nome is a crossdresser. And here's the thing,
Thank
guys.
you.
You don't gotta like
That's very nice of you.
crossdressers. You don't gotta be into it. You don't gotta enjoy it. But there's really nothing wrong with Brian Nome cross-dressing and enjoying.
That's not the issue.
And I
Yeah.
want to make that very, very clear. These articles are relying on sort of the shock.
I'm trying to get it to
that
not be
a lot of
too
men
loud
out
or
there
too
are
quiet.
really into, this exact stuff. Maybe not the cross-dressing aspect, but a lot of men would love to have a big busted blonde woman who they're, using as their sort of bimbo bride, right? So it's kind of interesting to me that it's so stigmatized here, because really it's only really stigmatized because, well, he was also cross-dressing. I do think that there's a lot to be said about the way that this story is sensationalized for that reason. And national security experts warn his online activity could have exposed the former South Dakota governor to blackmail while she led efforts to secure the southern border and fight terrorism. But that's nothing compared to Los Angeles-based Mercano, who has a huge following in the bimbofication scene. She and Brian messaged as recently as last month, when the infatuated insurance mogul wrote, "Would love to marry you." That was 5 days after Kristi, 54, was ousted from President Donald Trump's cabinet. I don't follow politics.
Interesting,
I'm
the
selling
timeline.
fantasy, insisted Mercano, the first woman to speak openly on the record since the cross-dressing scandal broke. It might be crazy that people have wives, but that's my job. I think he's a gentleman. He has some kinks, but guess what? Everyone does. According to the fetish model, Nome followed her OnlyFans as Jason, who claimed to be from Chicago, and went on to send money and messages with one reading, "You're the one that I love." Those kinks, Mercano told the Daily Mail, included Brian wanting to replicate her sexy Barbie aesthetic on himself. He said he liked a pink thong. He would say, "I have one," added Mercano. He would just say he likes pink, that he wants to be a bimbo, like me. I don't judge. You're paying some of my bills, so yeah, whatever makes you happy. Mercano said her association with Brian dates back to 2020, when he followed her Plastic Barbie 2000 OnlyFans page using a fake name. Jason from Chicago paid $250 a month to access her top subscriber VIP content and swap private messages, she claimed. He would
say, hi, boob god, your boobs are so good. You're so perfect.
Oh, that's her.
You're the boss.
Said Ricanio.
He was like, I want to be your slave. Call me slave. And I was like, okay. That's why his name has been slave for 5.5 years. And so I call him Slave Babe.
As the romance
Slave
progressed,
Babe.
Jason asked
I
Ricanio
love
to
that.
be his bimbo girlfriend so they can chat whenever he wanted, she told the Daily Mail. The arrangement was he'd get all of my videos for $1,500 every month to help me pay half my rent, she explained. Ricanio said
$1,500 a month? That's a pretty good deal.
for years, netting her tens of thousands of dollars. He also supplied bank account details to pay off luxury purchases on her Capital One and American Express credit cards, she said. These included 2 pairs of Louis Vuitton shoes, a $4,000 Louis Vuitton bag, and a $500 Nintendo Switch. She claims he paid a further $2,000 to have her 2,000cc breasts, already far larger than surgeons typically recommend, expanded to an outlandish 25,000cc. I was his bimbo girlfriend, and then I was his bimbo fiancé, Ricanio added. He said, hey bimbo god, go pick out some rings. I know you want a diamond ring. They were just sweet gifts. It was a fantasy, not real. By June 2025, Ricanio had figured out Jason's real identity. The penny dropped when several bimbo models, having similar secret chats with Brian, revealed the rancher and businessman was the spouse of the high-profile politician. She also saw the name Brian Noem on a PayPal account when he paid down her Amex bill. She said, I thought he lived in Chicago.
Did he have a ranch, or was that just a lie?
I warned him. I said, you need to stop talking to these girls. You need to stop sending pictures.
He would always say, gotta go away, but I'll be back. Thank you for everything. I need God. God needs to help me and heal me. And I was like, well, okay, honey. I wish you the best. And then he'd pop up again after like a month or two.
Brian's infatuation is laid bare in hundreds of WhatsApp messages Ricanio shared with the Daily Mail to support her bombshell claims. They were sent from a cell phone number that matches the one listed for Brian on the website of his Noem Insurance business in Bryant, South Dakota. Ricanio was also able to provide PayPal and Apple Pay records showing deposits from an account with the name Brian Noem. She produced evidence that her credit cards were paid down in $1,500 increments at the beginning of each month from April through November of last year. The Daily Mail further corroborated Ricanio's account by speaking independently to another entertainer in the close-knit bimbo scene. On December 30th, Brian messaged Ricanio, a former stripper and Playboy model, send me videos and photos of your gym outfit. He suggested they should make time for a call the next day to toast the new year. Let's do champagne together. I guess you're just hot as fuck, he wrote. On March 4th, Brian supported his Republican wife by sitting behind her at a congressional hearing scrutinizing her aggressive immigration enforcement tactics. The cameo backfired when California Democrat Sidney Calmer Dove asked Christie about her brazen years-long affair with close advisor Corey Lewandowski. Ricanio messaged Brian the next day to say, are you okay? I saw you on TV. She didn't receive a reply, but on March 10th, he reached out to abruptly
My
ask
story?
if she wanted to make her boobs even larger, adding, want to use
I'm not
my
sure what you
Amex?
mean.
Our Amex? In a flurry of messages, Brian gushed, I seem to be falling in love with you. I do love you. I effing
If you
want
want, you can just follow me on social media. That's a good way to get to know me.
marry you. Ricanio received a final payment of $1,300 in a PayPal transaction under Brian's real name on March 14th, her records show. And the pair last corresponded on March 23rd, less than 2 weeks before the Daily Mail's cross-dressing scoop went viral. Miss you, Brian lamented in one of his final messages, would so love to date you. Ricanio, who flaunts her curves across 7 adult creator sites, doesn't expect to hear from him again. But she told the Daily Mail she prays Brian can get his turbulent personal life back in order.
I just always wondered, like, why is this guy always so lonely in the basement drinking vodka?
This relationship was cool. It was fun. It was exciting. Nobody was getting hurt, and I was getting my rent paid. I wish him all the best and happiness in his life. Former CIA officer Mark Polymorpoulos explained how foreign adversaries might exploit Brian's behavior to target his wife. The idea is you gain some kind of compromising information on someone. You approach them, and in essence, blackmail them. The more egregious the behavior, the more susceptible that individual would be.
My social medias are
When the
in
Daily
the
Mail
description.
contacted Brian for a comment last week, he did not deny having explicit conversations or sharing photos of himself dressed as a woman. When it was suggested that he made indiscreet comments or left his wife vulnerable to blackmail, Brian replied, "Yeah, I made no comments like that. That would lead to that." So wow, that is quite the thing. Indiscreet comments or left. When the Daily Mail contacted Brian for a comment last week, he did not deny having explicit conversations or sharing photos of himself dressed as a woman. When it was suggested that he made indiscreet comments or left his wife vulnerable to blackmail, Brian replied, "Yeah, I made no comments like that. That would lead to that." So wow, that is quite the thing. And you know, there's a lot of stuff to be said about this. You know, I want to establish that one of the things that she said early on is this is all fantasy, right? And obviously, if you're a wife and you catch your husband sending messages like this to a sex worker, you probably do think that he's serious. Like, there's really no reason for you not to think that he's serious. But I want to really reiterate that for a lot of people who are engaged in this is play. And the thing is, this guy very clearly was a pay pig. A pay pig is a man who really, really, really likes basically being used for his money, essentially. He likes being in a sort of submissive dynamic where this beautiful, glamorous, dominant woman sort of makes him give her his money. Now, I wrote about this on my blog not that long ago, but I had a guy recently actually basically offer to pay for my entire life if I engaged in a very specific fetish of his. And it was very tempting. It was very tempting, but you would be surprised how many men get off on the idea of being dominated by a woman and handing her his money. For a lot of men, I know that does actually feel...
I really only chat with people who have subscribed or tipped on my page.
She has him listed under Slave Chicago.
So...
because that was their relationship dynamic. He was her slave, her pay pig.
If you're talking about that kind of chatting, certainly not here on YouTube.
Thank you. I pay it.
And even then, I'm not like big on.
She sends him a video, and that's kind of how.
I'm not big on chatting.
That's what they're.
I mainly just make content and stream.
This looks like WhatsApp. That's what I pieced together. She sends a video of herself. He says, "I fucking want to pay it because you're the one I love." And then look, she's engaging in his fetish. She says, "Okay, sounds hot. Look at this bodysuit. Pop open with my 2,800 cc's. Fuck yes, I know. I'm always your number one bimbo, right?" I think for a lot of men, the reason they enjoy stuff like this is because they're able to sort of get some of the interactions that they wish they could get from women. This guy, think about it. He sends her money. She's sexy for him. At least that's how he looks at it.
Fucking volume, whatever. It's fine.
It's not even hard to imagine how someone like Brian Noam, whose wife at this point in time is much more widely known and much more widely celebrated, may have a desire for that. And then he even says, "Would love to marry you. How are you going to pay off? I'll pay. Use my Amex." And you know, when he says stuff like this, "would love to marry you," he doesn't actually mean that. I think most sex workers, and I'll even say, like, if you're someone like me, a trans woman who, you know, ends up having a lot of relationships with men that are only digital, right? It's so common for men to be like, "I would love to date you, I would love to marry you," but they don't actually mean it. And if they did, they would be doing that, right? I'll try to do the 1,300 on PayPal, please send the money. See? Like, all this is he sends text messages like that, she gives him the bare minimum, and he's getting what he likes from this. And you see in this dynamic, even though he's the slave, he is the one who's in power. That is often the way that this works, right? Where the submissive is actually the one who's in power. He calls her bimbo god, and she calls him slave babe, right? These are the honorifics they use for each other. You know, a lot of times people take issue with sex workers and how they're paid and stuff. But you know, look at these numbers. Now, I never made this much doing cam work. You know, that's mostly because I didn't want to do any of this. One of the main ways that I could have probably been more successful when I was doing cam work way back in the day when I was 19, God, that was so long ago, if I did stuff like this, and that's kind of what it's all about, is you end up having these more private connections with the people that are in your audience, and they do stuff like this. That's where most online sex workers make most of their money, not through the sale of their pictures or videos necessarily.
You can follow me on Instagram, but I'm not going to chat through there, just a heads up.
And how, you know, not a lot of people are making as much money as they
thanks for joining.
OnlyFans, and that's probably true, but really the goal for most sex workers who use platforms like that
check out my Twitter for
off of the website
the
and
links
into these
to
private
stuff.
transactions. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You have to sort of maintain a relationship with someone. I ain't mad at her. I ain't mad at her at all. Alright, so this is Nicole Ricano, and when you look at Nicole Ricano, you get kind of the thing that Brian Nome was trying to emulate, right? Nicole Ricano very obviously enjoys having these body modifications. I'm not going to argue against that. But what a lot of people may not understand about sex workers is that usually they're playing a character. And that character often has a gimmick. They have a thing that they're known for. And a lot of times that's the way that a lot of sex workers are able to amass a following. They've got one particular very unique trait that they play up. And a lot of times the things that they produce may not actually be a reflection of their actual sexuality, but instead the character that they know is going to sell. Part of the way that I know sex workers work is that the people who are successful at sex work do this quite well. And when you look through the pictures of Nicole Ricano, you do see that there's a very particular curated presentation. She is a beautiful blonde woman with sizable breasts who likes to wear pink, right? That is a very common understanding of feminine gender expression, and it's also one that is often associated with bimbofication. This is the embodiment of what a lot of people imagine a bimbo looks like, right? She's Barbie doll, the Barbie bimbo, right? And this kind of branding is usually how these sex workers amass their audience. So a lot of times when I listen to people criticize the package that sex workers are selling their sex work in, it's a little funny to me, mostly because you can't believe that they're genuinely trying to be the thing that they're trying to sell. You know, they're most of us putting on a work face and presenting one version of themselves for work that may or may not really relate to who they are when they're not working. And I have to say, I it's an aesthetic that I do find to be quite cute. I think this shirt's kind of cute. And and there's the Nintendo Switch. There's the Nintendo Switch. If you guys want to know more about my feelings about sex work, you guys can watch the video that I did about the Bomb House. I have a lot of thoughts about sex work as a former sex worker, but I want to make it clear that for me personally, around these parts, we will always celebrate that sex work is indeed work. So hopefully you guys understand that when I'm having these conversations, that is the perspective that I'm coming from. I recognize that a lot of people who have husbands probably don't like the idea of their husbands paying OnlyFans models, and I think that there is something to be said about the way that this habit has been developing among men. But at the end of the day, she's working a job and he's paying her for services, and I ain't mad at her for it. Sex workers deserve to be paid. And one of the main arguments that I tend to make for OnlyFans that a lot of people don't typically understand is that with OnlyFans, a lot of these women are working as essentially independent contractors, right? They're not working for a company. And so as a person who did sex work in 2009, when that was not the case, I worked for a porn company. It's really not about liking sex work or the sex work industry or wanting for someone you know to participate in it. It's really about improved working conditions for sex workers and continuing to argue that sex workers deserve protection. I talk about this a lot in my Bob House video, but a lot of people don't understand that OnlyFans actually does upset a lot of porn producers and pimps because it makes them harder to get a hold of a lot of these women who have discovered that they do not actually need to go through them. Yes, several people still go through them for OnlyFans, but that's not their only option, and that's the point that I'm making.
A lot
this is another
of
article about another sex worker
studios, even like the small ones where it's just like one guy, they feel very threatened by people having their own page.
Humiliated by husband Brian. His desires
And they get very like clingy to the models that they do work with when they have bad intentions.
Christy Noem's husband, Brian, had a one-off secret online relationship with a left-wing dominatrix for more than 9 years. The Daily Mail can exclusively reveal. At times, the former Homeland Security Secretary's husband encouraged Cy Sotomayor as she repeatedly insulted his wife. Brian fantasized about leaving Christy for the woman he worshipped as his goddess, and discussed his desire to transition his gender through surgery and hormone therapy. Sotomayor, a 5-foot sex worker known as Raylene Riley, with extra-large 2,500cc breast implants, has shared dozens of phone records and online messages with the Daily Mail, revealing her conversations with the now 56-year-old insurance company executive who used the alias Jason Jackson. We have confirmed the telephone number used was Brian's, who also paid for their conversations using an email under the pseudonym Crystal Balls 666, and admitted he would like to be referred to by the name Crystal. Very similar to Christy. Interesante. Muy interesante. In the recordings, Brian is heard professing his subservience to Sotomayor, who wasn't shy in dissing his wife, then head of DHS, and in particular, criticizing her handling of aggressive ICE operations in Minneapolis. In fact, Brian was apparently so unfazed by Sotomayor ridiculing Christy that he told the dominatrix she was so much better than his wife, and that he didn't think his family stands a chance compared to her. Oof. In the end, Sotomayor said that Brian's demands for her attention seemingly grew so desperate that by late March, she started cutting back on their paid online and phone sessions. He just needed to talk, and it felt more personal than I was comfortable with, said the 30-year-old from Colorado Springs. Fuck your family, Sotomayor texted Brian on November, later calling the whole Noem clan gross. Love that, he responded. Beside the fact of who your wife is, no one is prettier than me. Do you want me to be a woman? He wrote. Do you want to be a woman for me? She asked. I think I do, he replied. In a recording of a phone conversation they had weeks later, Brian can be heard telling Sotomayor that he loved her.
You told me you loved me, didn't you?
I do love you. Yes.
Records of their conversation show how gripped Brian apparently was by his fantasies about hooking up with, being dominated by, and resembling the kind of big-breasted, highly made-up bimbo that he apparently fetishized. I need to be your trans bimbo slut, he wrote Sotomayor. According to Sotomayor, although Brian at first reached out to her through Twitter, they went on to converse mainly on StreamMe, an adult entertainment platform featuring live cam model services, and on Skype. She said he paid $15 a minute for her to chat with and pose for him. Rather than wanting to see her ginormous breasts naked, she said he preferred that she stuffed them into tight-fitting latex and leather. Now, I want to point this out at this point. The picture that came out of him with the big balloons under the tight-fitting dress, that's what he's trying to emulate. He's trying to emulate the look and feeling of very large breasts underneath tight-fitting clothing. And that's kind of what it's about. He can close his eyes, touch his chest, and imagine that that's the similar feeling that touching, especially enhanced breasts, would be like. Again, a lot of men that are into this particular fetish kind of enjoy this idea of feminizing themselves, often because it is degrading to them in one way or another. I don't embrace the airhead, ditzy personality that a lot of bimbos do. I expect to be worshipped, not degraded, right? And that's an important clarification. She said Brian especially appreciated hearing her talk about her other married clients who were bored of their wives. Keep in mind what I said about how a lot of times these men have a very particular complex about the women that they're in relationships with. Quite often they're in a relationship with a woman who they feel like in one way or another has let themselves go. So, you know, obviously I'm not going to say Christy Noem didn't do her surgical procedures because that's what she wanted for herself, but you have to think about how he fetishizes these women getting these surgical procedures and how she's changed her physical appearance over time. You have to keep in mind that these conservatives are trying to bring in and normalize a very hyper-misogynistic world, one where they can't just casually state that a woman's appearance is not sexually satisfying to them. For years, she took his word for it when he claimed to be a CEO of a company in Chicago. He abruptly cut off contact with her without explanation for getting these surgical procedures. No, didn't do her surgical procedures because that's what she wanted for herself, but you have to think about how he fetishizes these women getting these surgical procedures and how she's changed her physical appearance over time. You have to keep in mind that these conservatives are trying to bring in and normalize a very hyper-misogynistic world, one where they can't.
The fucking South Park episode about new Christians.
Is not sexually satisfying to them.
They really
For
like.
years, she took his word for it when he claimed to be a CEO.
They really hit the nail on the head, and this was well before this came out. So like,
Explanation in 2020.
they said it before anyone else.
It was the year after his wife had become
Maybe not anyone else, but before it was a common talking point.
like a little groundhog. About 5 years later, in October 2025, he did not share images of himself with inflated balloons stuffed into tight shirts as he did with other online sex
Alright, I finished editing the video.
Brian did, however,
I'm actually going to take a break from stream, and I might come back.
at first letting her know he wore women's thongs to his office. He also expressed a desire to go by a woman's name, Crystal. I want to be a Crystal so bad. He wrote on January 11th, I want to be a woman so bad. Sotomayor recalls being surprised that he had chosen a female name so close to that of his wife, Christy, who is known for drastic changes in her own appearance, or so-called MAGA makeover, before and during her 13 months in Trump's cabinet. I was just jaw to the floor, thrown through a loop, that he wanted to be called that, so close to her name, when he could have gone with Stephanie or something, she said. Once they reconnected last fall, Sotomayor said it became clear that her client wanted frequent, near-daily sessions with an intensity that far exceeded their earlier correspondence. Sotomayor said that Brian came to occupy so much of her time and pay her so much money that her own husband urged her to run his phone number and post office box address through an internet search. It was only then she realized his true identity. I felt he was very hypocritical for wanting to stand 10 toes on American family values while he was in my messages about wanting to be a trans bimbo bitch, she said, noting that she started recording their conversations over the winter. She sensed tinges of shame and self-loathing in their conversations, as Brian occasionally told her he needed to stop chatting and to grow up. Sotomayor's discomfort about her client grew in January after federal officers fatally shot Renee Good and Alex Peretti in Minneapolis under his wife's watch. It galled Sotomayor to see the DHS secretary posthumously attack both victims, Christie accusing Peretti and intensive care nurse of domestic terrorism, and she ultimately felt she could no longer remain silent, even while role-playing. By January 6, around the midpoint between Good and Peretti's death, Sotomayor said Brian sounded panicked, telling her he would go dark to deal with some family stuff. Really bad at home. Really bad. I've got to go figure me out. It's bad. Sorry and thank you, he wrote. I'm here for you, she responded. I've got to stop everything and focus on me. Thank you. I'll be deleting all my stuff, he wrote. Is it because of everything going on with ICE right now, she asked. And life, he wrote. Yeah, I'm sure it's stressful, she texted. The dominatrix and political husband turned wannabe bimbo kept up their role-playing well after Trump fired his wife from his cabinet on March 5th. Their last correspondence came on the evening of March 22nd, when Brian texted Sotomayor asking for a phone call, and she refused, saying it was too late. She told the Daily Mail that the reason for her refusal was less than the hour than the intensity of their conversation, a decision to step back and to distance herself from what she had perceived as his increasingly unhealthy neediness. I needed to set some boundaries and just take care of myself, she said. I've had moments when I'm wondering, how did this become my life? I just never thought I would be the mistress to ICE. So, yeah, that is pretty insane. That is pretty crazy. So this is Shy Sotomayor, and as you see, they are yittying. The titties are tittying, so to speak. She looks so cute. I actually think that this is such a cute little look. This is her as well, and you can kind of see that this is also a very different vibe. This is a little bit more of like an alternative bimbo, but you also see that she does have a sort of look and vibe that she curates, and that is part of it, right? But these two women, even though they have very different aesthetics, have one thing in common, right? large enhancements, right? Now, there are some comments in this post about Brian wanting to become a woman. I want to talk about that really quickly. Something I mentioned in my video is that a lot of times the reason why people think that trans women have like a sexual fetish for being transgender is because a lot of these conservative men, that's kind of the only way they can conceive of like a trans person transitioning, right? I'm a straight woman. I don't look at myself and get turned on, and if I did, it still wouldn't be a bad thing. Still wouldn't be a bad thing, right? I do think that when people talk about autogynephilia, though, they're often talking about men like Brian Noe, right? Men who do get sexually turned on by the idea of changing their bodies and looking like a woman, right? And I want to make it very clear that this is fantasy. This is all fantasy, right? And for a lot of people who are into this fetish, it will never actually go over to them being transgender. But I want to say this. For a lot of people, cross-dressing is how they arrive to a transgender identity. For some people, especially within more conservative communities where there aren't a lot of people like that around them, cross-dressing is the thing that they do privately in their homes. They're able to have conversations with people on the internet about what their gender is and what their identity is. And from there, they can start to have conversations about who they are with themselves that may actually end up leading them to exploring their gender. And while I would say that that's not something that's like super common amongst cross-dressers, it is something that happens. But it's very clear that for him, this was fantasy. He had no desire to actually transition. And I actually do think there's a lot to be said about him choosing a name that is so similar to that of his wife, right? I mean, even if you look at the text messages, right, this is all just fetish shit, right? This is all fetish shit. And I want to make it clear that a really central part of this for a lot of people is the idea of a woman making them feminine, right? A woman with a very soft but very forceful hand feminizing them, right? And so he says, do you want me to be a woman? She says, do you want to be a woman for me? He says, I think I do. What do you think? What do you want? She says, I think you'd make a great woman. And he says, I would have to agree with you. Hair removal, huge fake tits, ass implants, hormones. So hot, right? And then he says, but only if you want it. So I don't get the vibe that he's actually interested in gender transition. I think this is a fantasy for him. Again, that's what this is for most people. He says, I will be your trans girl. Long hair, big lips, boobs. She says, good. I'll make you the prettiest trans girl ever, right? And that's the thing. A lot of times, like, when fetishists talk about trans women, we exist in this weird, like, fetishistic realm for them. I'm saying this as, like, a trans woman who's never had breast implants and hasn't had half of this shit, right? We exist in, like, this kind of, like,
Okay. Stopping at 36 minutes, 55 seconds. I mean, yeah. I'm gonna take a break. We've been streaming 2 hours and 20 minutes. Nice. And I got the video, like, cut down the way that I want it to, for the most part. If anything, I just need to edit the colors. And yeah. I'll probably be back here to... Well, I was gonna say gaming, but I need to do photos still.